Welcome everyone to the Hume Regional Integrated Cancer Services Annual Forum for 2021-2022. My name's Mark Ashcroft and I'm Chair of the Hume RICS Governance Committee. I'd like to start by acknowledging the traditional owners of the lands on which we're meeting today, pay respects to their elders past, present and emerging, and any elders that may be with us in the forum today. Firstly, thank you to all those who've dialed into the forum. We continue to live in highly unusual circumstances and meeting virtually is all that's available to many of us often these days. Wish to thank those people who've collaborated with the staff of Hume RICS over the past year with a focus on improving cancer services outcomes for people with cancer and their families and loved ones. Presentations at the forum today will be centred around the projects which have been supported by Hume RICS grant funding over the past 12 months. And there are two projects which support geriatric oncology models of care, one in Albury and one in Shepparton. Cancer trials at Golden Valley Health were supported to improve and extend their service provision, and Albury Wodonga Regional Cancer Centre was supported to improve patients' experience receiving care as they transition between services at the centre. The first subject for presentation is improving the care of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people with cancer, introduced by Hume RICS Program Manager Annie Williams.
Over the last 12 months, one of the priority areas for those of us in Hume RICS and our associated and aligned services has been working collaboratively to improve the services we provide to patients of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander backgrounds. Cancer is one of the biggest burdens of disease for patients of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander backgrounds. Aboriginal Victorians are 71% more likely to be diagnosed with cancer than their non-Aboriginal counterparts in the communities. We have been working to implement the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander OCP by collaborating with Aboriginal controlled health organisations and other key partners to work to improve workforce knowledge of the OCP and improve the understanding of the unique needs of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people with cancer. As a brief background to the project, an ICS staff survey was distributed in October last year, the results of which informed the education program completed in May-June 2022. Our next steps are to develop and distribute a health service clinician survey, to coordinate the release of resources across the ICSs for staff, to undertake a review and analysis of data from clinicians' survey, the identification of gaps and solutions to support implementation of the Aboriginal OCP at health service level.
I'd like to begin today by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land that we meet today and pay my respects to elders past and present.
Hi, my name is Vegas. As you're about to see, I am far more comfortable in front of a canvas than I am in front of a camera, so my apologies. Hopefully we'll get through this. I'm in far north Queensland in my mobile Indigenous gallery / coffee van with my beautiful wife and my Great Dane, which, yes, is very comfortable and very cosy in a caravan with a Great Dane. I just want to thank Hume RICS and WICS for the opportunity to be able to paint this for you today, and I'm just going to give you a little bit of background about myself and how I started and what this means. I'm a Wurundjeri man from the Kulin Nation, and my mother's side grew up in the Brunswick area, and my uncle was a beautiful Indigenous painter, and I was lucky enough to learn from him as a young boy a lot of the value and beauty in telling stories without using words, and I loved every moment of it. As I grew up, I sort of moved away a little bit from painting for a while. As you do, life happens and you travel and do things. But when my uncle developed cancer, I was drawn back to painting and really wanted to express to him how I felt about what he taught me and the connection that I felt to him and to country when I paint. I was able to get him a painting in hospital, and when I delivered it to him, he asked me who taught me to paint like that, which I responded, some black fella, and he thought that was hilarious, and we had a nice little laugh and a moment around that. Unfortunately, he passed away the very next day, but it gave me great comfort to know that he felt that connection with me, and he died with that painting by his side. The opportunity to do this artwork has been profound to me. Obviously, for those reasons that I just expressed, my mission in this is to try and help Indigenous Australians to try and get the help that they need. I don't think my uncle did all he could and didn't really reach out in the ways that he could. So hopefully, if I can make a difference to one person with this painting and change their life, it would be amazing. So, you know, I really hope that I can do that. I'm just going to talk you through the painting briefly. And I hope you've got the painting in front of you, or this is not going to make any sense whatsoever. As you can look at the painting, I wanted to express all the beautiful waterways that are in Victoria, you know, led by the Yarra, obviously. It's such a beautiful part of the state, and you know, I really wanted to depict that in the beautiful blues and the different tones of blue. So you can see that river running through the middle of the painting. The handprints represent from early childhood through to adulthood and through to the next phase, into the transitional phase. Whatever you believe that is in the next part of life is represented in those rainbows. It's love and hope and everything that's beautiful, and I wanted to show how you can transition into that, and it can still be a beautiful thing. As you can see, the circles on two on the left and one on the right, they represent family and meeting places. The U-shapes represent humans, and it's basically the shape your bum makes when you sit in the sand. So that's where that symbol comes from. The one with a line on either side is female, and the one with two lines is male. So generally that will be the case when you see that. Bottom left hand side, I've got some kangaroo prints in there, as obviously kangaroos are very common and indigenous to that area. So I wanted to sort of represent them. You can see there's some gum leaves which also show the river gums, and you know how important they are to Victoria and you know those waterways. There's a lot of line work involved here, which is traditional for my mob. They paint in a lot of line work, so I've included that as that's part of my style. You can see on the far right there's a wing, which is Bunjil the eagle, who is my totem, and he's really important to the area that we're talking about in Victoria, and he basically was the creator of humans. So if you look at the side of the rivers, it's I've used sea sponge, which gives texture and shows all the you know the mud and the soil of the rivers, which the stories of Bunjil created man out of the mud and the soil from the river, and then he got it right and created female. So that's what that represents. I've tried to keep this bright and positive, but keep it very Victorian and something that people will easily represent with, no matter what they interpret it as. So, you know, I'd like to again just thank you guys for the opportunity to have done this piece. It really does mean a lot to me, and I hope it can make a difference, and I hope everyone loves it and is touched by what it is and what it means. So I'd like to just say cheerio and wish everybody the best. All right, thanks very much, and best of wishes to all of you.
Good afternoon. My name is Javier, one of the oncologists here in Shepparton, the clinical director of West Hume Riggs. And I would like just to discuss a few slides today regarding our part on the Revitalize project, which include the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Clinical Trial Access Initiative. I am one of the colleagues together with Dr. Craig Underhill. The Regional Trials Network in Victoria has recently expanded in the last couple of years, in which a couple of new sites have been included, Mildura and Latrobe, and in total we are 8 sites, and our catchment area is of 1.9 million people, and if we talk about new number of cases, it's about 7,000 or in excess of 7,000 new cancer diagnosis every year. This slide talking about our project. So in the Relitalite's big umbrella, there are 8 projects in which our project Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander, highlighted here, clinical trials access initiative, is focused on the implementation of research section of optimal care pathway after analyzing a baseline data and developing a pilot project to be started to done here in the region, in the Gorbon Valley region, and then hopefully expand not only statewide, but also potentially as a federal, according to the results. So this is the co-design of our project. So basically, initially was a scoping mapping pilot, which we have, thank you, Monica Green, Dr. Monica Green, and Professor John Cunningham from the Menzies Health Institute, in which they have done this desktop review about the current evidence about clinical trial access and barriers for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander population, full stop. The preliminary work has been completed and the report has been reviewed, and the pilot is starting to be confirmed by the steering committee, in which we are very proud that they are 2 of our consumers, Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander, and also the Aboriginal community control health organizations, locally Rumbolara, and also in the statewide Victoria Bacho community health organization, in which we have been discussing in our meetings, and we are ready to start our pilot and start the recruitment as a next step for the Indigenous Research and Project Officer, according to the outcome from the steering committee. So in other words, the project is moving more in particular in the last 6 months, where we have been able to work together with consumers from Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander population, but also once again with this Victorian Aboriginal community, including locally Rumbolara. So this is a screenshot of the preliminary consultancy work done by Menzies, by Dr. Monica Green and Professor Corrigan. Basically, this is a screenshot, difficult to read, but one of the main things that I wanted to point out is on the next slide, and this slide, in which the overarching themes always in line with the trust, with the cultural safety. If we see here on the left, we see the community of rich engagement, in which the stakeholder, as we as a community, engage with the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander, the relationship between the team and the community, and the support for the local team. Regarding the cancer center, which is more our process, the trial team characteristics for these studies, the governance and management, the support trial participants, the technology and the information communication that given in different way to the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander community. And on the right side, the trial design, including all stage, more in particular, diseases related to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders, such as hepatocellular carcinoma, lung cancer, and head and neck tumors, full stop. This should be a person-centered care. In order to get recruitment, the eligibility criteria should be less strict in order to allow for multiple comorbidities and able to have a retention of the clinical trial patients. So this is a summary of the mapping of barriers that we have initially worked up on the analysis for how we can increase the number of patients from Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander background to be enrolled into our clinical trials. So we see here, there are different barriers. We got in green the systematic barriers from the system, as I mentioned, the health worker factors, patient factors, and other factors on the right side. So starting with the systemic barriers, we see a strict eligibility criteria regarding comorbidities. So we can approach that one with real-world clinical trials or prospective registry clinical trial that has been started as part of the Revitalize or RTN network, limiting number of clinical trials available for these diseases such as hepatocellular carcinoma, lung cancer, and head and neck. So that could be potentially addressed with the increase of teletrial access and prioritize opening trials of these features characteristics for our patients. If we go to the pink color, the health worker factors. So just we need to tackle this prejudice about Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander being a difficult patient. Before seeing the patient, there is a bias of the health worker regarding it's going to be difficult communication, difficult access to examination, difficult to the patient to complain. And this is one of the barriers that we need to tackle as well as part of the system. The patient factors, of course, we well aware that our Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander patients have multiple comorbidities and compare with patients of the same age of any other status, full stop. So this is a snapshot also about the optimal care pathway for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people with cancer, which has been already published by the Department of Health. So a few things to point out there, a few considerations who I think are key in this process is understanding the philosophies of holistic health and well-being and the role of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander knowledge, including the values, the belief, the cultural needs. The care coordination, because this patient we should offer, for example, the option to see a health professional of the same gender as the patient. Acknowledgement, the family may include people who are not genetically related. When discussing about family history, once again, we need to pay attention. The concept of family is broader than being just genetically associated. And also to keep an eye and remember the cultural taboos about cancer in this community. On the right side, the communication need to be provided in plain English. Information is accessible and culturally appropriate, and basically, in other words, the patient's able to understand what the role of a clinical trial is, the risks and the benefits. The practical consideration for consultations, we need to allow more time to build this rapport and trust with these patients. This should be also include family and community members, including elders, to support our patients in the community. And also, we need to be very aware of the cultural implications, including permission before examining a patient and explain why it is necessary. Our next slide is regarding this snapshot for the optimal cancer pathway. Outline 7 clinical steps in the patient journey with our Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander patient in the middle as a center of care, and all the 7 strategies, steps around that. And further that, if we see on the left upper quadrant, in highlight in yellow, the research and clinical trials have been already pointed out as part of these optimal care pathways. On the right side, we see the research and clinical trials that all patients, as per the OCPs, should be offered the opportunity to participate in clinical trial, including our Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander patients. We need to focus on research design, culture, and language and ethics. Research focus specific concerns for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander, as I mentioned, especially a couple of cancer streams, including lung cancer and hepatocellular carcinoma. And most importantly, everything should be cultural safety, full stop. In order to achieve this equity in participation, we had to be culturally appropriate to approach our patients and better to explain the benefits of clinical trials, which is the pivotal area in which we, in our research and pilot program, will be addressing these issues. So, in behalf of my steering committee, including Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander participant, wanted to thank you for attending this forum, and we will keep you updated about our progress in this important project. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Christopher Steer. I'm an Associate Professor at the University of New South Wales Rural Clinical Campus in Albury. I'm also a medical oncologist at Border Medical Oncology at the Albury-Wodonga Regional Cancer Centre. I'm an adjunct professor at La Trobe University, the John Richards Centre for Rural Ageing Research. The theme of this next section of the forum is adequate assessment yields appropriate care. This holds true in all aspects of medicine, but it is particularly important in the care of older adults with cancer. Geriatric assessment is now recommended in older adults being considered for anti-cancer therapy, as it improves communication about age-related concerns, reduces treatment toxicity, and improves health-related quality of life. Multidimensional geriatric assessment is also vital in guiding supportive care interventions. This assessment then yields appropriate care. What do I mean by this? Appropriate care is person-centred and delivered without elements of ageism. It's delivered with mutual trust and respect. Appropriate care is care that enables informed consent and has appropriate goals, be they prolongation of survival or maintenance of independence. Adequate assessment yields appropriate care. Adequate assessment also guides optimal supportive care. If we think of supportive care as the bridge that helps to carry a patient through their cancer journey and accept that geriatric assessment improves the quality of that care, I know which bridge I would rather cross. My efforts to improve supportive care for older adults in the Hume region commenced in 2010 with the paper-based geriatric assessment known then as the Yellow Form. This multi-dimensional geriatric assessment tool was mailed out to patients over the age of 70 before they were seen at the cancer centre and was then used by a care coordinator in a telephone interview to enable the enhanced supportive care referrals. Around a decade later, we have refined this process and are using an electronic format geriatric assessment known as the ERFA, or Electronic Rapid Fitness Assessment, in the enhanced supportive care process. Our future work should be enabled by the findings of the 2019 VIX Geriatric Oncology Scoping Project that recommended some form of screening tool be used in all older adults with cancer statewide, and where possible, a geriatric assessment be provided to them. Safer Care Victoria are also recommending the creation of age-friendly health services using the principles of the 4 M's, namely attention to medication, attention to mentation, mobility, and most importantly, what matters most. There is an argument that all cancer services should strive to adopt these principles of age-friendly healthcare. We in the Northeast are leading the way. Nicole Webb will describe the Enhanced Supportive Care Service at the Albury-Wodonga Regional Cancer Centre.
My name is Nicole Webb. I'm a cancer care coordinator, and this last year I've been working on a project called the Enhanced Supportive Care of the Older Adults with Cancer project, and that has been through Hume. So the Enhanced Supportive Care Service is an assessment that we do with our older patients involving screening tests using a G8 tool, as well as an online survey and a timed up and go walk and a mini cog, which is a little cognitive memory test. And we do these basically to try and identify what patients are frail and how we can best support them. So ultimately it's a service that we've set up to help support our older patient population better. So this service is for patients who are aged 70 and over. And first of all, we do what's called a G8 assessment, which is a short assessment involving 8 questions. This is mostly done by the doctors, but anyone can do it, any of the staff. And that helps us identify patients who would benefit from going on and doing a geriatric assessment known as a GA. So the GA provides lots of additional patient information that cannot be obtained in a usual consult. This might include things ranging from activities of daily living to psychological well-being if a patient's had falls, and all this information helps us in providing tailored care to meet the patient's needs. It also gives an opportunity for the patient to voice any age-related concerns that they might have. A geriatric assessment provides additional information for the clinicians, the doctors and the nurses to provide better care for the patient through being able to understand what their circumstances are. So this might include the supports that they have at home, as well as how they're functioning, so if they've been having falls. And it helps us to recognise what types of services might be best to help support them. It also helps inform us as to the best treatment for them, or if treatment is the best thing at all, if supportive care is better. The geriatric assessment is quite a flexible process in that we can send an online survey over a text or an email, or otherwise we can do it with the patient or their family when they come into the centre. So it involves 3 components. The first is an online survey that goes through a number of different questions involving the patient's function. The second part is a small test called a mini cog, which helps us better understand their cognitive status. And the third one is a timed up and go walk, which we measure them walking a distance of 3 metres return walk. And that also just helps us to see how they're going with their walking and how steady they are. So once the patient has completed these tests, we then have the results returned back to us via a table in an email, and these are then provided to the treating clinicians for the patient. So the geriatric assessment is globally recognised as being a really important part of providing care to the older patient with cancer, and it has a multitude of benefits. Some of these include helping guide the clinician in the best treatment available to that patient. It also helps we often have patients linking in earlier to the supportive care staff, and then therefore receiving supportive care earlier. So that might be in the form of some assistance with a physio or OT. And also geriatric assessment has been found to even reduce the side effects of treatment and toxicity, and overall has been found to improve patients' quality of life. So it's a really important assessment, and we would love to be able to do it with everyone. But the reason we do the G8 is so that we can, because we don't have the resources to do it with everyone, using the G8 tool, we can then identify the patients who are most at risk of needing that extra support. So some of the key learnings of this particular project is that it's really important to have a key clinician leading this supportive care service. So we hope into the future to have someone who can head this up fully, and we hope that we can grow this service so that more patients can have access to this great assessment. Another really important benefit of a geriatric assessment is it helps us to get alongside families as well and provide support to them, because often carers can struggle in their role, especially as older carers. So being able to be involved at an earlier stage is a real benefit of this assessment. So the Enhanced Supportive Care project involved a number of different aspects, including education of staff across the centre, as well as introducing screening using the G8 tool and geriatric assessment using the electronic rapid fitness assessment. Another important part of this project was having a time and a place to discuss the patients that are assessed, which we now do at the end of our supportive care meeting each Tuesday. This is attended by a wide variety of clinicians and means that we can work out together what the patient requirements might be and put into place a plan.
We will now hear from Cheryl Lancaster, who will outline the collaborative geriatric oncology model of care, whereby the geriatricians at St Vincent's Hospital in Melbourne are linked with the patients at GV Health.
Hi, I'm Cheryl Lancaster. I'm the Geri Oncology Coordinator here at Goulburn Valley Health. I look after cancer patients aged 70 years and over. A cancer diagnosis is difficult for anyone, but it is especially challenging in an older person who could be living with multiple medical problems, functional limitations or cognitive impairments. Geriatric oncology is a subspecialty committed to the provision of appropriate cancer treatment to older patients. It comprises of a specialised multidisciplinary team of health professionals to provide individualised holistic cancer management plans and interventions to support older patients along their cancer journey. With over half of the patients referred to GV Health Oncology being aged 70 years and older, the need of a specialised geriatric oncology service was identified. With support and funding from Hume Regional Integrated Cancer Service, GV Health established the Geri Oncology Service in August 2021 in collaboration with St Vincent's Hospital Melbourne. St Vincent's Hospital Melbourne have a long association of providing quality cancer care to patients of the Goulburn Valley region in partnership with GV Health. GV Health patients access the service closer to home through telehealth, which means they don't need to travel long distances. The Geriatric Oncology Service aims to improve outcomes by optimising patients' general health and assisting the patient and their oncology team with decisions about their cancer treatment based on a comprehensive geriatric assessment. This model of care is now recognised as international best practice. The treating oncologist will complete a brief assessment on all new patients who consent for a screening of their suitability and benefits from a geriatrician's assessment prior to the commencement of their treatment. Patients are then seen by a geriatrician who performs a comprehensive assessment to understand the patient's general health status and identify whether any interventions or supports are required. In turn, this assists patients and families to make decisions about treatment in consultation with their oncology team, general practitioner and other healthcare providers. Based on the assessment, the geriatrician may make recommendations for the patient's ongoing treatment and the service coordinator can organise referrals to other clinicians such as social worker, dietitian, psychologist, physiotherapist and occupational therapist. The overall goal is to improve patients' well-being and ability to cope with day-to-day life during their cancer treatment by assessing and finding opportunities to improve mobility, memory, independence and offering enhanced supportive care to the patient and their families. Since the commencement of the Geriatric Oncology Service in August 2021, over 240 patients have been pre-screened for an assessment by their oncologist. This represents 52.6% of all new patient referrals to GV Health Oncology. Over 190 patients have consented and had their geriatric screening completed, with approximately 65% meeting the criteria for a comprehensive geriatric assessment with a St Vincent's geriatrician. As a health service, the ultimate goal would be to increase GV Health's geriatrician resources on site to accommodate the needs of the growing numbers of this patient cohort presenting to the service. This would enable increased capacity for face-to-face comprehensive geriatric assessment appointments.
My name's Carol Mott and I'm the Clinical Trial Coordinator at Goulburn Valley Health Oncology. So the trials team identified that by outsourcing the ethics and governance tasks to Cancer Trials Australia, and this is a clinical trial management organisation, it would allow the clinical trial coordinator to focus on recruitment of new trials and patients whilst generating enough revenue to sustain the costs of outsourcing to Cancer Trials Australia. So this would then therefore allow the recruitment of new patients and new trials. So the benefits for patients are that they don't have to travel long distances for clinical trials to Melbourne and other regional areas, and also reduces the financial burden and financial related costs and accommodation travel costs as well for patients. A benefit for GV Health is that this would also generate additional revenue to sustain the day-to-day running of the trials unit, and this increase in generated revenue enables growth of the unit, increased staff capacity and improves access for regional patients to participate in clinical trials. So the project period went from baseline period from May 2020 through to June 2022, and we collected data looking at the number of feasibilities that were received. There was a significant increase in the number of feasibilities or new trials that GV Health accepted during that period. With the additional trial coordinator capacity, there was a 33% increase in new oncology trials commenced within the GV Health unit, and an almost 25% increase in the total number of patients on studies from the baseline to the end of the project period. The additional studies generated more revenue for the unit to continue to cover the cost for outsourcing to Cancer Trials Australia, and provided evidence to build a business case for the recruitment of additional trial staff in order to enable expansion of the clinical trial portfolio. Towards the end of the project, additional clinical trial coordinator resource was recruited, and this was due to the data gathered throughout the project, which contributed to a business case for additional staff hours. So when selecting and accepting new trials for the unit, we just want to make sure that there's an appropriate ratio of commercially sponsored trials compared to non-commercially sponsored trials. This is just to ensure maximum benefit for the unit and also for the patients as well. So this then allows a financially sustainable trials unit to enable future growth for the unit and for the hospital. This graph shows the total number of new studies by trial type commenced in the 12-month measurement period of this project and compared to the prior 12-month baseline measurement period. And there's been an overall increase in new studies by 33.3%. This graph represents the total patients on clinical trials at end of each 12-month measurement period. These patients are having treatment or active follow-up, and there's been a 24.6% net increase in the total number of patients on studies at the end of the project phase period compared to the total patients at the end of the baseline period.
Albury-Wodonga Regional Cancer Centre was fortunate to receive funding from the Hume Region Integrated Cancer Service to sponsor a review of patient flow within the Cancer Centre. Under the direction of a steering committee, the consultancy group Biru was engaged to examine opportunities to review and improve patient flow within the centre. Recommendations were made to consider A. Improving the patient experience within the centre, B. Preventing errors and reducing risk, and C. Improving the quality of care through improvements to information flow and standardisation of processes. In summary, the key findings of the review were that the volume of patients and complexity of treatments have significantly increased during the first 5 years of the centre's operation. The report notes that there is goodwill across the centre for engaging in the review and for collaboratively developing and implementing proposals to resolve the issues. One of the major considerations is the patient journey through the services that comprise the Albury-Wodonga Regional Cancer Centre and also the impact on patient flow. It's likely that the volume of service provided in the Cancer Centre will continue to grow, and it's important that issues identified are resolved as quickly as possible in readiness for these expected additional demands.
Good afternoon all, my name's Annie Williams and I'm the Program Manager for Hume RICS, and I thank you all very much for your attendance today at our virtual forum. We love to celebrate the great work that we do across the Hume region and be able to communicate this and some of the highlights that we've done for this year. I'd also like to hope that people who are attending this forum would be interested in some new and innovative approaches we have planned going forward for the next 12 months, one of which is a new round of funded projects which will be available and advertised on our Hume Ricks website and other communications internally. I recommend that everyone follow our updates in our newsletter and look forward to working with you all in the future.